Let's move on to the next artist here. We only have a few more left. We talked about this one last time, I believe, but at the time we had a discussion about him. He had a different sound. He had a different style. He was doing something a little different this time. Now, and we're going to be talking about Drake here. Champagne Poppy, as he's known. A lot of people lately, and maybe this is why he's on the list, I'm not totally sure, but a lot of people lately have been talking to me about Drake as if he's not even hip hop anymore because of what he did on his last album, Views, because he's sort of going further in that pop direction, further in that dance hall direction. Some people seem to feel like even though a bulk of the tracks on his album were hip hop, he's kind of giving himself up more to the pop world than he is the rap world. Like he's not hip hops anymore, I guess. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what makes him a lackluster rapper at this point, because on the rapper front, it seems like he's not really trying all that much anymore ever since, if you're reading this and those Meek Mill disses dropped, it seems like his head's kind of been in a completely different musical space.
Kind of maybe becoming a victim of his own success. I mean, maybe that's why More Life is getting pushed back as much as it is. That's never a good sign.
Yeah, because that was supposed to be out at the end of February.
At the end of February? I thought it
was supposed to be out late last year. Then it was supposed to be January. Then it was supposed to be the end of February. And now who the fuck knows?
Yeah. So I think he's broken out commercially so much with those records, with those different sounds, that now he's got to sort of keep going on. I mean, he's not going to come out with an album, and people need to just let go of the idea of him coming out with an album with a song, every song sounding like hype from Views. I would love it. I would love it personally, but that's not something that he's going to do. He's going to make, he's going to experiment with sounds. He's going to make more Hotline Blings, more one dances, because he's got to keep this Drake train going. He's got to finance this whole thing. So it does surprise me that he's on the list, because no one had such a big year. The past 2 years have basically been his. So maybe this is more to the point of him being a victim of his own success, because the minute there seems to be some form of stagnation, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we're panicking. And that might be the case here.
Well, to me, it seemed like the hype kind of dropped off pretty quickly after Views dropped, because nothing on the album really came to light as far as like, whoa, this song's amazing, or this track turned out being a really huge single or something like that. All of that album's hottest tracks came out before that album was released. Mm-hmm. So it's almost as if the hype just kind of dropped off immediately after Views came out. And not necessarily because Drake's fans turned against him on the album or anything. I personally didn't like the record. There were a lot of people who I knew who were anticipating the album, didn't really care for it either. But it seemed like his hardcore fans enjoyed it. But it seemed like almost as if he went on hiatus a little bit after that album came out, because there hasn't really been a whole lot of noise outside of the couple of tracks that he dropped in promotion of More Life, which we're still kind of sitting here waiting. When is it going to come out? I don't know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying. Like, the next album he comes out with, it's probably going to have a totally different sound. Like, he might entirely abandon this whole dance hall thing he's been playing with, and maybe he's kind of sitting there waiting for the hype on it to kind of die down so that his fans don't anticipate him to come out with more music like that, because he kind of started that trend in a lot of ways immediately after he came out with One Dance and Controlla. Like every pop dance music producer and a lot of other rappers too, and artists and R&B artists were coming out with these like really lukewarm, whitewashed, terrible dance hall songs. They're just like, hey, we're on the trend too. Don't forget us. We're here.
Yeah, I think I heard your Post Malone review. Didn't you mention that he had one of those sort of Caribbean kind of?
I think he might have. Ugh.
Post Malone.
Ugh. You know, nice guy though. Nice guy. Him and I beefed on Twitter for a little bit.
Oh.
And then we got along because I don't know why. We just started joking, and then the beef kind of just subsided, I guess. But whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a nice man. Shout out to Post Malone.
He's a good man.
But I mean, I don't know why Drake is on this list either. I don't think he's one of the worst rappers that's out there right now. I kind of get why some people are complaining that it seems like he's kind of abandoned the sound, because, you know, the rap tracks on his album were some of the more lackluster on the record. I get it. And the rap tracks didn't really seem to be the centerpiece or the main focus of the album, as some of the biggest hits on the record were not really the rap songs on the album. And, you know, he did have those corny moments on the record where he was rapping about arguing with his girl at the Cheesecake Factory. You know, just let Drake have his fucking Cheesecake Factory, you know? Yeah. Drake loves his cheesecake. But having said all that,
let him have his cheesecake.
Let him have his cheesecake. Having said all that, you know, this next album, we know it's going to be different. We know Drake's going to change lanes again, because it's always what he does. We know he's going to steal some ideas from another place or another direction or something and do something totally different. There have been people who have been accusing him of stealing ideas from another rapper on this list.
Yeah, you know, before we get into that rapper, I you know, that recent interview that he did with DJ Simtex, he mentions, like, he openly mentions that he's on his computer just diving deep into the internet. I mean, that sort of incriminates you a bit more when you could find any obscure video of an artist who has a particular sound and then just use it. And
yeah, he's clearly done that in the case of Dram. He's clearly done that in the case of other, you know, Southern rappers. You know, I want to ask you this.
Moji with the low prices.
I want to ask you this. And maybe this is why some people, you know, sort of hate Drake. I've heard this critique lobbed at him a lot. Do you think Drake's a culture vulture? I've heard a lot of people call him that. I've heard that critique thrown at him quite a bit.
From the viewpoint of him, from a nationalistic standpoint, a racial standpoint?
I'm not really sure, because it seems almost as if, like, you know, what does that mean? An artist like Kanye clearly borrows from his contemporaries, like in a really big way. You know, to the point where he's blatantly ripping them off, or he's paying them to produce songs or write songs for him. Like, he clearly is immersed. He immerses himself with every new record in what's hot and what's relevant to sort of keep himself relevant and keep the train going. You know, Drake, in a lot of respects, I see as doing the same thing. But in the case of Kanye, I don't see that critique getting lobbed at him. But I do see people call Drake a culture vulture. As if he makes hip hop while not really being a part of hip hop culture.
Yeah, that term always, it's spoken about somebody who is of a different race or from a different place. That's where I've normally heard the term culture vulture. I mean, when I first started to hear that, it was about Lee R. Cohen, who was I think he was a president or CEO of Def Jam Records. And I used to hear about Vlad from Vlad TV, Iggy Azalea. I've never heard, but do I think, okay, if I come down a step, do I feel like he is? I don't think so. I mean, I think Drake is stealing like an artist, you know, which is what is sort of always suggested, that's what you have to do. You don't take direct, you know, you don't take it directly, but sort of you turn it into your own. And everybody searches the internet, of course. I mean, you'd be stupid to believe that all these large artists, they're not looking out there into the benefit that the World Wide Web.
Of course they are. Or other people. Other people are doing it for them.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just the fact that he openly says it. I think there's something to that. And I think that feeds that narrative of, yeah, of course you'd be the guy that's you know, looking over everything with a fine tooth comb, because this is what you do. He's being innovative because, I mean, as you said, people are borrowing those sounds that he's using now. Migos can, you know, that's confirmed. He did, but so did a lot of people.
Sure.
So did a lot of people. Drake's not the only one that was guilty of that.
Yeah.
The Weeknd is another big one.
The huge one.
Yeah. I mean, all these other guys, the guys that we're about to mention now, I don't see it. I don't know if there's a particular song, but I don't see it there. You know, maybe I haven't heard enough of him to be able to come to that conclusion, but I don't see it there. Not with the recent ones.